Irish Joe. Always Irish Joe. Always Irish Joe. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. What are you doing? Don't do this to me, Harry! The Ohio State. It's Ohio State! What do you mean, the? It's a poison. I almost stroked out and died over it. I'm glad to be at the party. I'm mad we're this late. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. That helps the defense without them even doing a damn thing. Doing a damn thing. The call-in line. 312-988-15. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Irish. Yeah, that's right. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Irish. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks. Welcome to a Maniac Monday edition of the Always Irish Dog Days of Summer show. I'm telling you what, we can't get to August soon enough. It is just, I don't want to speak out of turn. I am at the point in the summer where I'm just in my own thoughts and it's just going back and forth with my own mind. What about this? What about that? I need this. We need that. What if this? What if that? And there's no answers to anything. We're at that point in the summer, folks. We're at that point in the summer. So we're just going to shoot wherever you want to shoot to, in the chat, in the calls, whatever you want to do. 312-988-15. It's your dime, your dance floor until we get in closer to camp, all right? So anything on your mind, get it out. Just get it out, all right? Happy to be here. Happy to have you here. Obviously, you know you can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps me as well. Notifications on that way. You're alerted every time a new episode drops. You don't want to miss it. Twitter. Search bar, Always Irish, or at Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only. Anywhere you want me, you can locate me. Fighting Irish Wire every day. New articles about Notre Dame. Type it in. Favorite it. Whatever. Know how to bring the tab up every day, and then the newest articles will be there. Read all about it, folks. Notre Dame football style. And do not forget, July 9th, Sam Hartman's first public Notre Dame NIL autograph signing for Ever Young Sports Cards in Crown Point, Indiana. Sponsored by a weird-looking leprechaun guy that yells a lot on the internet. Who could it be? It be me. Happy to meet everybody. Happy to throw some bags. Happy to talk about our Notre Dame concerns and stressors. Like that's what it could turn into. Let's just meet and commiserate about where we're all at, what you're excited about, what you're nervous about, all of it. Wish Sam Hartman good luck, all of that, all right? Visit foreveryoungsportscards.com for further details and ticketing information. I've been getting emails. People have been asking questions. I saw some VIP package questions going on. I like this. We're building momentum. A couple more weeks. Get your tickets. Make your kid's day. Say, hey, kid, you like Notre Dame? How would you like to meet Notre Dame starting quarterback today? Look at this. I'm helping you be a great parent and curry some favor with your kids. Make their day. Surprise them. What are we doing? It's a lazy, hazy summer Sunday. What are we going to do? We have nothing to do. Yeah, you do. You're going to meet Notre Dame's quarterback, son. What a beautiful setup. Look at that. Dad of the Year recommendation style. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Got a couple calls. We're going to get to you, 618. You guys are getting good on the chats. You're getting good on the chats. You're putting a lot of stuff in there. And I said this last week as well. It's kind of freaking me out how I have these things in my brain and then I log in, and before I even talk about them, before the show, a lot of this stuff you guys are talking about, it's just, I like that. It tells me I'm not totally crazy, that I'm on in line with where a lot of you guys are at. And That either means two things. One is I have a good pulse of the fan base and where we're at and what we're thinking about. Or it could be a bad thing where it's audience capture, where all the people that have my anxieties and worries are all getting filtered in here. And then we're all kind of in that together of what we're worrying about or whatever. And we're like-minded in that way. So maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know either way. But it does make me feel good to see you guys are thinking of a lot of the stuff I am. So one of the questions I had is, and this came up over the weekend. Somebody I don't see a lot, but that likes Notre Dame. I ran into him at the community event I was working at this last week. And that's its own experience. And I might even do a little episode on it, just as far as social experiments go. This was about the best one you could ever have, right up my alley. I might do a little something just on that because it was so interesting and fun. My little job role for the city here over the weekend was very interesting. A new experience for me for sure, but very, very fun. But I just, a couple of things that I got asked running into these people I don't see often and haven't seen in a while, but like Notre Dame. John, what's the biggest challenge for Notre Dame? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Short term for this year, big picture with the college football changing the way it does, all of that. And there's some varying answers to that. And my main answer to it is it's good and bad. And we'll see if you guys can identify why I say that. When I get asked the biggest challenge facing Notre Dame these days, the answer I come up with is good and bad. And we're going to see if you guys hit on it too. But feel free to give me a call. Anything on your mind. I say it every week now in the dead weeks of summer here where there ain't much happening from now till camp. I don't care what I'm talking about or whatever. If you got something bugging you and it isn't exactly on my list for the day, I don't care. Call me up. Get it off your chest. This is the Irish Counseling Hotline. Get it out. Get it out. That's what we're here for. All right. Let's do a roll call here. We got some good chats before the show. I'm going to try and get caught up, and then we'll go to the calls, and we'll see where we're at. As always, Andrew Gilmore, he's always thinking. He's always thinking. It's Happy's brother who's a little smarter, and he's thinking of all these things. And I like hearing that. Prior to camp, I think the three biggest goals for ND are: 1, get a commit for Viamu Asa; 2, get Justin Scott to campus for an unofficial; 3, get Lambert to commit. Lambert might not want to leave Boston. Yeah, it's man, wouldn't that be frustrating? Can you imagine not wanting to leave Boston? And what do you want to do? I think he visited Harvard or something. What are you going to go to BC instead of Notre Dame and play on the line? Come on, man. Come on. Like you'll see mom on the phone, FaceTime or something if you want to stay home. That's rough to me. Yeah, he says he visited Harvard. Well, the grades aren't an issue then if he visited Harvard. So that's good. I doubt he'll end up there, but I think it signals he has no problem settling for BC in order to stay home. Settle for sure. Like, I just can't. Man, homesickness is a real thing. Football players, a lot of old Notre Dame players have talked about that adjustment, going from wherever you are and then going to Notre Dame, and it's a new environment. Your family isn't nearby. Like, that's a very natural thing. And it's not something I'm going to make fun of people for. That's a real thing, wanting to stay home and have that comfort. But like, I just think sometimes you got to branch out, and you can FaceTime mom. Like the world's a smaller place than it used to be. And then, listen, isn't it a big red flag that Justin Scott's in Chicago and doesn't get to Notre Dame? I don't know any other way to take that. This isn't a guy where it's like, well, he's got to drive all the way from the South or pay for a long flight halfway across the country. No, dude. Get on the Skyway, get on the toll road, and get over there from Chicago. So That is what it is. But when I look at some of the places he's visited and all that, I know what they're offering him. I don't know where that puts Notre Dame or what his priorities are, but it's come over, buddy. Get on that Skyway, come across the border from Illinois to Indiana, hit that toll road and get over here is what I need to happen. Anders says, right around this time, the past 2 years, we saw USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, and Texas leave. I wonder if Florida State and Clemson will make the move against the ACC. That might force Notre Dame's hand to join the Big Ten. Listen, I haven't heard much about that recently. Like a month ago, that was a big talking point and something that came up. That's kind of cool, unless I'm just not seeing it or looking at the right stuff. But I have not seen a lot of that smoke recently like I even did a month ago. But you are right. We're getting into that time frame where that stuff could happen. And again, I keep coming back to a big theme now with Notre Dame and college football is the rate of change and fast change and big change in the sport. It's never been faster as far as how things are moving and changing with conferences, with the playoff stuff, with NIL being legal, with the transfer situation that's blown up. It used to be kind of rare, and now it's an everyday thing for guys to move around without sitting out. All of that. The playoff changes. Like, these are big scale changes. These are not like small little things, and then you just like, things go back to normal. These are things that are going to change the way the sport looks forever. And where does Notre Dame fit in that? Because in my opinion, Notre Dame's historically been pretty reactionary to big scale changes. Meaning, if there's something going on, Notre Dame's usually like late to get on board with it. And for whatever reason, maybe some of it is wanting to be conservative on making big moves until they're comfortable with them or want to see things play out other places. So Notre Dame's always been a little reactionary when it comes to moving and changes and things like that. But it's a wild time. And it's wild, like Andrew said, that what some of these other teams do, totally separate from Notre Dame, can shape Notre Dame's next moves. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see. C. Jones, the biggest challenge for ND is to continue to recruit elite talent to fill out the roster in the current environment. If not, expect more of the same. 100% correct. 100% correct. I don't know anybody that could even push back on this comment, even if you wanted to. I don't know how you could. I think that is one of the biggest challenges is get that elite talent to buy into Notre Dame. I don't think it's an issue of buying into Freeman. I think everybody that goes in a room with him ends up loving the guy. It's buying into all of the stuff that comes along with Notre Dame. And it's just harder here. You have to go to school. You have to like do stuff. You don't get money just for being here. Like, it is a harder path. And Freeman's got to try and sell those elite guys on choosing the harder path. And that is a challenge. Even if they love Freeman and all of his vibe and everything, that is a very unique Notre Dame specific challenge. To try and be a football factory in a way, but also having the school and the discipline stuff and the grades and no pay for play and all of that stuff. It's hard to not say that's going to be Freeman's biggest challenge. And it sounds like loser talk when I say, could you imagine the way Freeman would have recruited Notre Dame if he was in Brian Kelly's spot 5 years ago and not now? Like, could you imagine? I think we'd have a bunch of 5 stars on the roster. I genuinely do. If it was before NIL and what's happening to us being hostages to pay for play in these recruiting classes, if you just let Freeman do it the way he's doing it, he has these top guys interested and they can get the grades. That has not been the problem. That has not been the problem. There are smart guys that are high 4-star, 5-star guys. And Freeman can get them interested. It's getting them to sign up. and to actually go through with it and be here and sign up for that extra challenge. It's a unique mentality. It's a unique mentality of those that want to accept that challenge. It's a tough sell because it is more work and it's harder to do. 618, you're going to come up first. Hang with me. Pat, hey, John, always Irish Nation. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Crying belly. Let's see what he has for me today. Sure, there's some criticism coming. Let's see how bad it is today. Start out the week on that foot. Our biggest issue is the excuse making. Freeman is making zero excuses, and we shouldn't either. Tired of jumping for joy at mediocrity given our limitations or whatever. Moral victories have kept us down. Yeah, well, crying. Do you got the cart, the horse before the cart, or the cart after the horse here? Our biggest issue is the excuse making. Well, let's reverse engineer that. Our biggest issue can't be the excuse making. It has to be what's making us try and make excuses to feel better about results we don't love. So it depends on how far back we want to go here. Our biggest issue is excuse making. Why isn't our biggest issue to you the things going wrong that we have to try and make excuses for, in your opinion? For instance, the last 25 years of winning nothing anybody values or cares about. Like, the biggest issue isn't the excuse making, it's the results that put people in a position to have to make excuses to feel better about what's going on. That's rough. That's rough. Let's see what else he has here for me. Yeah, we got crushed by Alabama in 2020, but we held them to their lowest points of the season. Same thing as saying defensive recruiting is great under Freeman, given NIL restrictions, unhelpful. So, I mean, we got problems with everything and everybody here, don't we, crying? But that is such a loserish position. Like, it really is. And Brian Kelly told you that all the time, that we were close. We're playing Georgia and we lost both games, but at least we didn't get embarrassed. Like, bro, I totally agree. That is a low bar. If the bar is just, as long as we didn't get embarrassed, it was good enough. That went for Ohio State last year too. It's like, well, we held them to their lowest point total of the year and they looked pretty decent. Yeah, bro. And you put up a touchdown and a field goal in 4 quarters of football. Is what we did. Like, yeah, we held them down or whatever. We scored 1 touchdown and 1 field goal the whole game. Like, punch yourself in the face for even having a dream that that's good enough. And oh, by the way, that was with the quarterback that was in one piece, the guy you wanted to run it all with before he got hurt. And that's what you came up with. And I get that they wanted to be conservative with Buckner and ease him into the season and being the first time being a starter, like all that, whatever. I get all that, man, but come on, bro. 10 points isn't real life. And then we had the whole offensive line thing too. And then it was like, John, because we weren't running the ball great. John, offensive lines take time to gel. You do not have time to gel. It's the first game, and it was Ohio State. You need to gel it out before the game. I can't stand that. We're offensive line you, and then I hear the offensive line takes a few weeks to gel. You don't have a few weeks to gel. All that's going to do is make me yell. You don't have a preseason where these are warm-up games, and they don't count. You don't have any of that. You got Ohio State week 1. Your gelling needed to already happen. Move people, block people, hit somebody, push them back. You don't have time to gel in college football. Unless you're Michigan, then you have 10 weeks to gel before you play a real team. That's a little different. There, you got all the time in the world to gel because they play a high school schedule till November. I really didn't expect to get this worked up on a Monday morning at 9:19, but here we are. The circumstances are such. I can't help it. Can't help it at all. Here's a nice message. Sean Under, we are ND through and through. That is accurate. Whether we're mad, sad, glad, or feeling rad, we're Notre Damers. It's never going to change. It's never going to change, even if we're miserable. What has Andrew got? I'm not worried about Carr's ranking. We know what we are getting. He's not Lawrence or Caleb Williams, but he could be Baker. Mayfield was Riley's best so far. Nearly beat Georgia at the Rose. Yeah, listen. Here's the thing with this. I think I know what we're getting in Carr too, from what I've seen and what I've read and all of this. Here's where I'm at. I don't believe Notre Dame people, like beggars can't be choosers. Like we have a history of quarterback play and development with Kelly that was just not good enough. Both the recruiting and the development part, once they're here, was not good enough. Now, I think this is a guy of a higher cut coming in at a higher level, which is going to help. And I am encouraged Gaduli can get some development out of these guys, these quarterbacks, especially young ones that are malleable and have to learn the college game and all that goes into that and that pressure and everything. I am very, very hopeful that this will be a new dynamic with quarterbacks, both recruiting a higher level. So when they come in, there's less time to go before they're ready, and then get that developmental arc to be more obvious in the right direction, not the Kelly Reese direction where the longer the guys played here, the worse their numbers got. I cannot reiterate what a blatant failure that is. That you look at those guys and the more games they started, if they started 2 years, year 2, the numbers went down, not up. That's a problem, man. That's a problem. And if you want to say, well, it isn't just the quarterback, it has to do with who's around him and all. Yeah, I'm including all of that. So for whatever the reasons are, those guys had a bad track record of getting these guys, and the numbers go down and not up the longer they're in our program. Red flag central, bro. And that goes for Kelly and Boy Wonder down in Alabama town. Okay. Not how it's supposed to go. I think Gaduli's going to be good at this. And Reese wanted to be the OC and the quarterback developer and do all that. And he told Freeman he didn't need any extra help. He didn't need anybody else, whatever. Fine. That's how he chose to run it. And I didn't get the results I wanted. So I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes crying again. Sometimes I wish callers I see. I got you. Sometimes I wish ND fans were as pig-headed as Buckeyes or Wolverines, and we wouldn't be such a sad group always expecting the worst. Wonder if the fan base's mentality affects our players at all. Well, listen, let me flip it on you. Crying belly. We wouldn't be such a sad group. I wonder if the fan base's mentality affects our players at all. Listen, between the fans and the players, there's only one of those groups that could change the mentality, and it ain't the fans. Like the players, I could be happy or sad all the time, and I don't see it changing what's happening on a Saturday. Like the players are the only ones who could change the narrative, change people's minds, make them feel better, make them have a positive outlook when we enter a big game. Make us think we're going to win this thing and not, oh, man, I hope something bad and embarrassing doesn't happen tonight. Like, I can't blame the fans for reacting to 25 years of not good enough. I don't know what you expect us to do. It's been literally 25 years of not good enough results. That ain't my fault. That ain't my fault. What was 14-year-old me supposed to change that? 20-year-old me during the Weiss era? Well, what was I supposed to do? It's on them to change it. Give us positivity and we'll be more positive. It's like it's a reflection. When things aren't good enough, the mood is negative. When things are great, the mood is positive. That ain't my fault. I'm not out there playing. Wonder if the fan base's mentality affects our players at all. If you could show me any evidence it does, then I just, it's incumbent on them to change the narrative, not me. Right? I report the news. I don't make it. It's on those guys to change it. Jeez, I hope they're not worried about what the fans think. We're in our own minds because for 25 years, we've been running in circles. Always close, never close enough. Sorry. I'm told I'm negative all the time, but I don't blame our loss to Marshall on a shaky roster. Nah, man, I expect greatness. Did you also expect greatness the last 25 years? Like, that's the thing. This isn't just a 1-year deal. We have not had greatness since I had a full head of hair and was 4 years old was the last time we had true greatness. You could argue, after 88, Lou still had good teams, and then 93 or whatever. But as far as actually like getting over the hump, we have not had greatness or a realistic expectation of it most of my life. It's just kind of tough. This is not a 1-year problem. We did not have greatness under Brian Kelly and Charlie Weiss or whatever, and now we don't. And it's like, what's Freeman doing wrong? That elusive hunt of greatness is one that we've been going after for like 25, 27 years, you guys. Like, it's just rough when you have that long of not doing it. Rough. I'm actually high on many of ND's players, which is why 8-4 was an unforgivable joke last year. And anything less than a New Year's 6 bowl win at 23 is a major red flag for Freeman. 8-4 was an unforgivable joke. It's like, define unforgivable. What does that mean? If it's unforgivable, shouldn't that technically mean like Freeman's fired or something? Unforgivable meaning I don't like it and it should never happen. Yeah, but like define unforgivable, But it really is upsetting. I mean, I got to agree with Cryan. Look at the dynamic here. Marshall and Stanford, 17.5-point home favorites in both of those games. This wasn't even like you could go, oh, well, we went into a rough environment and it was a loud environment and they were up for it. It was their biggest home game of the year at night. And all the fans were drunk and it was loud and we couldn't put it together. Bro, you don't even have that excuse. You were at home in perfect weather for both of those games as a 17.5-point favorite, and you played like poop. You just played like a pile of poop on the ground. And you had no answers and looked totally disinterested in participating in the football game. Crying, I got to agree with you. I don't like that. And whatever that mentality is that sunk into those guys' brains preparing for that game needs to be adjusted, especially when you have a schedule with 3 marquee big name opponents on it. And all 3 of them are looking to win their conference and have a great chance to. Clemson, USC, Ohio State. All of them are right in the race to win their conferences. When you got that on the schedule, you can't afford to lose any of these dumb games. You can't. So I'm with you on that. Nobody's saying it's acceptable. Bad. At home, just total no-shows. I still can't figure out what causes that. Matt Miller, good morning, ND fans. John, it was great seeing you on the live show last night with the Ohio guys. We had some fun, man. Really good guys, really nice. They like being in our chat and a part of the show. And I joined them last night, and you guys should check it out. It's fun for me to be on the other side of it. So going on an Ohio State show and having them ask me questions, like doing it that way, it's just a totally different dynamic when somebody's interviewing you instead of you interviewing them. And it's just kind of fun to be on the other end of it. And the reality is we have our disagreements about certain things. And, they didn't like the comment Freeman said about not making the Ohio State mistake twice, like that kind of thing. So we had our little back and forth, and the Big Ten stuff with Notre Dame. But we bonded and agreed on one thing, and that is our mutual distaste for all things Michigan football, Michigan fans. So like, it's like whenever there would be like an issue of us and Ohio State fans bumping heads or disagreeing on something, we can always unite on that front as far as how both of our fan bases feel about Michigan. We're in lockstep on that one. And I would rather see Ohio State beat Michigan every single year than the other way around. That is 100% a fact. 100% a fact. Callers, I got you. I promise. I want to get caught up. I got a couple super chats. Crying. Marshall and Stanford games were unforgivable. Yeah, nobody can say that's okay. But when we say unforgivable, what does that mean to you? Like, that's where this practically gets stuck to me. Yeah, they were unforgivable, but what does unforgivable mean? Fire the head coach? Bench all the players? Like, that's the issue. It's easy to say it's unforgivable, but what are the consequences for committing an unforgivable sin? That's where it gets tricky, right? It can't be fire Freeman after year one because he had a dumb loss. So unforgivable, I don't know what that means practically. I don't know what that means practically. It sounds good. That's a heavy phrase. Unforgivable feels like there's no coming back from it, right? That's not the case here. So are we being a little hyperbolic? Because you say unforgivable, what does that mean? What are the consequences? That's a main question I have. So, yeah, they were unforgivable, but ND skill players were not good last year. Pine at QB, no wide receiver talent or depth. First-year running backs, only Mayer was legit. This offense is much better. I agree. But again, a lot of people don't want to go there because what that turns into, Andrew, is I agree with you. But a lot of people react very negatively when I say anything criticizing Kelly's roster. He left Freeman that Freeman inherited. When I say that, I take nothing but heat. I get called a Freeman defender, a Freeman homer, and you're blaming Kelly for everything, and Freeman's your boy. You're never going to criticize him, whatever. It's very, very tough for me because everything Andrew's saying is accurate, but nobody wants to come off as though they're blaming the last regime, guys that aren't even coaching here anymore, for losses that are happening now. Nobody wants to do that. It feels like a loser thing to say, like you're covering for Freeman and just want to bury the old guy. But listen, you all know how football works. If you have a bunch of guys on the team and a guy coaching that team, and then he leaves and you have a new coach, the reality is that new coach is inheriting the old guy's players, good and bad, the good parts and the bad parts. And it takes time to figure out the bad parts and redo them and get depth and get proper talent and all that. No one wants to hear that, though. It's excuse making. It's blaming a guy in the Louisiana swamps for losses we have when he wasn't even there. No one likes that. I am not saying we lost to Marshall and Stanford and it's Brian Kelly's fault. I am saying a part of the reason, whatever you think it is that we did that, has to do with the roster that was Brian Kelly's build. And it wasn't good enough. Never been good enough, right? Brian Kelly's never built a Notre Dame roster that's good enough. That ain't a secret. That ain't new news. It ain't. Adam Dowling, good to see you. I know Adam was out on the boat over the weekend. I told him, get out there on that boat, have a few beers, listen to some music, be with your wife, ignore the football, let it go. Get out on the water and just let that go. Float around on the boat. Don't worry about Notre Dame. If you could do it, he couldn't do it. God bless him. I love Adam. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He was at the Sox game and he still texted me Notre Dame worries and out on the boat. John, you know how this goes. If I have a couple beers, even if I'm not trying, the Notre Dame stuff's going to flood in my brain. I love this sickness we have, this Notre Dame sickness. It's very healthy in a way. Very healthy. Oh, Mikey Poles. Good morning, John. On the field, our biggest challenge is whether or not the defense can keep us in the game. Hartman in the offense will be formidable. Man, is it too much to ask in Notre Dame land that one of these years, somehow, some way, while I'm still alive and kicking, maybe even doing this show, is there ever a situation where I'm going to look at a Notre Dame team entering a year and say, I genuinely feel like all three phases of this football team are good enough to compete in the playoff now? Am I crazy for asking that? Even the good teams Brian Kelly had on the high end were extremely flawed. Even the good teams, the best Brian Kelly Notre Dame teams, I was still saying, yeah, there are parts of this team that are nowhere close to the real world that I need them to be. And ultimately, you get your brains beat in when you run up to a team, wherever it is, in the playoff or however far you get. When you run into one of those complete teams, then you find out the hard way. And it is a constant frustration, and was during the Kelly era. Everything could never be where we needed it, trending in the right direction at the same time, all three phases. Feeling like we have a lockdown defense, we have an offense that can score enough and throw it and run it, and having a special teams that it doesn't, not only does it not hurt you, but it actually makes winning plays for you when you need them. Gain you an extra possession, gain you flip field position, get a turnover, block a kick, run a kick back, whatever. I just wish we could feel one time like everything's trending up. It drives me nuts. And in a way, maybe it's a good thing. Look at it this way, you guys. Look at how flawed a bunch of these rosters have been and how far we've been able to get with them. That's the other way to look at it. Brian Kelly got a lot of mileage and run with teams that were severely flawed. 2012, we were in the championship with an offense that was not any good. Not any good. No, not good. We just need all three phases trending in the right direction once. I don't think I'm asking for too much. Give it to me one time where all three phases I feel confident in, like a real, well-rounded team. Am I asking for the world? Maybe I am in Notre Dame land. I don't know. Heart Foundation, good to see you. Good to see you. Mikey Poles, that's my security guard at the tailgate. I need him to walk around, tough guy with the muscles I never had. In recent years, we relied on our defense to bail out our awful offense, needing short fields to score and keep us close. Now we just need the defense to not give up 40 plus in a big game. See, I didn't even see that yet. And he's talking about some of what I'm talking about. We were living off the defense all those years. Defense, elite defense, ultimate bend but don't break, defense. And then now we're in a position where we feel like the offense is trending up, and now we don't know if the defense can keep us in a game. It's enough to make me lose my freaking mind. It is. It's enough to make me lose my mind. You can't get it all right at the same time. And I got news for you. Maybe back in 2012, you could make the run Notre Dame made and get away with being fairly one-dimensional, defensive-oriented. You guys got to realize, if you're younger, this may have been when you were pretty young, 2012. That defense gave up 9.6 points per game on average. That's what our defense gave up, under 10 points a game. That offense, all they had to do was kick a few field goals, and they were going to win. That's how dominant that defense was that year, bro. Get it all right at the same damn time, okay? Yeah. Matt Miller basically just stated my entire rant. Yeah, that's it. That's my entire rant. Why can't we all have all three phases at the same time? Well, proper recruiting, proper development, having the right coaches in all these spots to be able to recruit and develop, like that's a big part of it too. If you got a couple guys that aren't carrying their weight in any way for any reason, then you're bumped up against that. Like there's a lot of things involved. But in the modern playoff era, in 2012, we got away with doing it pretty one-dimensional, made it very far. You're not going to be able to do that in the 12-team playoff where Notre Dame's going to have to win a string of games in a month against good teams. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to be very well-rounded, very deep, and be able to navigate all that. And it ain't going to be easy. But the only way you're going to make it through the gauntlet of the new playoff era, having to win more games all in a row, is being very deep and very well-rounded on both sides of the football. Notre Dame's got to get better at that. Maybe we'll see that this year. I don't know. Domer guy, paint the house green on September 23rd. He's back with his daily message, folks. Listen up and do as he says. Oh, man. Good morning, Patrick. Good to see you. Pat says he played bogey golf this morning, John. Literally, I bogeyed every hole on the front nine. You know what they say about golf, Pat? Consistency is key. At least you were consistent, right? It just took one extra one. Bogey golf's really annoying. Like, you'll just have a round where no matter what, there's just one shot on every hole where you're out of position and you end up playing bogey golf, and it's just a struggle to get to par. Everybody has those days. Well, every amateur that, whatever, has those days. Oh, this is a very good point. And then we'll go to some of the calls and I'll come back to the chat. So hang with me, guys. Bob Alvey. Looks like that's a golf picture. Glad to see it. Made a trip to Athens, home of Georgia, of course, on Saturday. Was welcomed by a billboard soliciting money for NIL with a short description of NIL and a link for the average fan to donate to help win championships. Now, Bob, here's what's interesting about that. What's interesting about that is my parents just drove from Illinois to Florida and went through Georgia. And my mom was taking pictures with her phone and sending me all of the billboards and advertisements she saw of all the Georgia guys doing NIL deals everywhere. And then they would look them up, and the guy would be like a backup linebacker, and he's got a billboard making NIL money in Georgia. A backup linebacker, not like your frontline guy, your best player that's a household brand name or nothing. No. And then they got further, and it was just like, John, they got this NIL stuff out and about, and it's public, and it isn't even just frontline guys. It's all over the place. I believe this has, Bob, check this out. Tennessee, okay? I believe last year, Tennessee had a setup where when you go to the concession stand at a excuse me, I just choked myself up talking about NIL, and I choked myself up. I can't breathe. What's going on? Tennessee last year had a setup at every concession stand at the home games where you could tip extra and it goes to the players' NIL. That's how out front some of these teams are being. Now, is that gaudy? I think it kind of is. But as you keep drinking your beer there and whatever and go up there, I guarantee people are donating a bunch of money to go to those players for the NIL fund. But I'm pretty sure they literally had a link where you could donate extra above what you paid for your stuff, and it goes to something where the money allegedly gets somewhere. Now, I don't know how that works with, like, the universities can't offer it, but the collectives can't. But I know for a fact people were taking screenshots where it said you could pay extra and that money will go for that. That's wild. It's wild. But Notre Dame's never going to be that out front with it. They will perceive that aggression with this goal in mind as being below them, and they're not going to do it that way. They have no problem with Jack asking us for money after he messed up an offensive coordinator hire, They have no problem with that. But the NIL part, they're not going to do that and let you do it at the games or anything. Oh, man. Anders says, Bob, that's why I push back on Quinn running NIL. We need to see results. Georgia's collective as a fundraising professional at the top. You don't have a pretty face. You need fundraising qualifications. That's a very professional way to look at it, Andrew. Somebody who knows how to drum up that money and get into that network or whatever. I'm telling you, I don't have those qualifications. I'd be good at that job. Somebody should sign me up for this. Give me that database of Notre Dame's global network of all those people and let me reach out and craft messages and try and find ways to get our guys into these businesses with good, creative, modern NIL ideas. Everybody wins. That's what I want to do. It'd be a dream job for me. Let me look at these guys and what companies they're at, and I will come up with the angle for the marketing for them and find a good fit on our team. It ain't that hard. You just have to be dedicated to the cause. And I question Notre Dame's dedication to the cause and where they're at in the process right now. One compliment for Quinn. I have to think he put together a good package for Hartman. I would think so. Hopefully I'm a part of that package in a couple weeks at the autograph signing. I don't know how much money Hartman's going to make, but if I feel like I drove some people there, then I feel like I'm at least trying to help the cause. Like, I don't know how much, I'm not acting like I have any power or control, but if the least I could do is promote his NIL event and get some people there, then I feel like I'm helping a little bit, trying to do my part, not just run my mouth, but actually get my butt out there and help with the event. I don't know. Christopher Morgan, been a while. Sunset Kid, good to see you. Nick Dean, I don't hear anything about it. And Notre Dame's NIL fund. Every time I ask, it's behind the scenes. They're working on it behind the scenes. They're working out the details. They're going to come up with something more public soon. I keep being told it. Make no doubt about it, though. I want you to know this, Nick and everybody else. Know that Freeman knows exactly what the scoreboard is with this. Like, I want everybody to know that. None of this is lost on Freeman. Freeman ain't living in some dreamland where he doesn't think NIL is a big deal or going to impact him and all that. No. Freeman knows, and I have some comfort in that, knowing Freeman's pushing this. Freeman is trying to get our guys more opportunities to help with our ability to recruit and all that. That's going on. And it does make me feel better about that. I felt like Kelly was just like, that's one more thing we got to do. I don't want to do that. Freeman's all over it. He knows the scoreboard. He knows the modern realities and the challenges of all this. And he is trying to push as much as he can. Again, I want to ask this main question. How much can the new AD change with this? How much can a new, younger, media-driven AD help change this? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe it's a lot. Maybe it's almost not at all. The guys above him, the administration, they don't want it. I don't know the answer to that. But I do reserve some new hope that Bavakwa may be more modern and able to get more done and make more headway in that area. I don't know if he can or can't, but it's at least something new to try. Something new to try. So I don't know. Dr. John says, good morning. Family obligations today. Going to be gone in 15 minutes. Have a fun show. Be happy in your work. John, I'm happy every time I get to be with you fine Notre Dame people. It makes me happy. It's just one big Irish group. Angela Rudiger. It was really good. I got to see her and her family at the event I was at over the weekend. Nice little surprise. Didn't know they were going to be there. Really good to see her. John, send rain to Southwest Indiana. I'm telling you, dude, my yard is browned out, and I'm not trying to fix it. I gave up. I'm not going to sit there and run a sprinkler and all that. We get no rain. And if we do, it's like 5 minutes and it's gone. We just aren't getting rain. Everybody's yard is browning out in my neighborhood, except for like two guys that are obsessed with it, running the water all day. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Whatever. I guess we'll try next year, but I'm not worrying about it. We don't get any rain. My backyard is like brown, crunchy grass right now. And I'm not running up my water bill to make it green. It ain't happening. Sharky, good to see you. The Nature Boy, go Dogs. Woo! Nature Boy, good to see you. Every time I see the Nate, I want to do that. I love it. Sean Hunter, what's going on? Deb Thomas, Mikey Poles. Hey, D-Rock Irish. I got to thank him. D-Rock Irish popped in the Ohio podcast last night that I was on, and it was nice to have a little Notre Dame support there. Somebody on my team, but it was really good to see him pop in. C. Jones, seems as though the ND discussion to join the Big Ten has shifted from if to when. You know, I kind of think that, but at the same time, the 12-team playoff gives Notre Dame more flexibility. If it was still a 4-teamer, there's way more pressure. Going to 12 and being able to maybe go 10-2 and make it every year. I'm not talking about winning it, but making it at 10-2 most years. If you land a good TV deal, and I think that's a big thing Bavacqua is obviously perfectly suited to do as the next AD with his TV executive experience. If you're able to land a good financial TV deal, and as an independent, you could get in the playoff at 10-2 or whatever and be in it, I don't see a lot of pressure for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten if that's the situation. But what could change that is external non-Notre Dame stuff happening. Meaning, like we already talked about, Clemson and Miami and Florida State want to leave the ACC and then they do this and that, whatever. Like, there could be external factors that could change this or make it more of a reality that we feel that we have to make a move or whatever. But the two biggest things to me were money. Number one, making sure the next TV deal gives us enough money that you're in the ballpark of the payouts of the Big Ten and the SEC TV deals, that you could financially stay viable. That is the number one thing we needed to make sure of. With Bavacqua, I'm sure that's like not the main reason he's hired, but a big reason he's the guy is to get that right. And then number two is playoff access. And now we have that. You could go 10-2 and make it most years in the 12-teamer if you're Notre Dame, I believe. So there's not a lot of pressure in those areas. But if enough other stuff changes around the country, that could change what we need to do as well. So I don't know. Cryan says, what's up, John? I love you, bro. Cryan Belly, you always bring up something to debate. I appreciate that. Domer Guy 88 618. I'm coming to you 818 after 707. Call back if you're still on. Asking fans for donations is sleazy to me, and ND already does that, just not on a billboard in South Bend and not towards NIL. Yeah, exactly. Notre Dame's okay with it, but only if it has their Notre Dame shine on it. Only if it has their Notre Dame shine on it. But I will never, ever forgive Jack for them messing up their own internal public relations with the offensive coordinator situation. And when he gets called out on it, telling us we were wrong and to give them more money. Like, I'm sorry, you guys. You want to talk about disconnected from reality, not having a grasp on how the regular fans feel and think, and like the highfalutin Notre Dame higher-ups, I always talk about them being totally disconnected from modern reality. There you go. Perfect example. You created your own PR nightmare by not handling that situation correctly, got called out all around the country for it, and then you told us we were wrong and to give you more money. No, 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 no. No, that ain't going to fly. Always Irish Senior. Good to have you here. All right, these two super chats. Then we're going to go to the calls. Willie B. Hardigan. Personal problem. Can't answer that for you. $5 holler. Every time I see that name, I just laugh. I can't not laugh. But a $5 holler, the biggest challenge. Stuck up administration that hates the common middle class Notre Dame fan and doesn't understand yelling at a football game. Willie B. Ardigan, guess what? You just donated $5. I feel like I need to give it back to you as a prize for nailing my answer on the biggest question, the biggest challenge of Notre Dame football. It's internally. That's the answer, you guys. And that is both good and bad. Willie, you nailed it. Our biggest hurdle that I see it in the future is ourselves. Everything you want to name. Better facilities, more money for assistant hires, more aggressive NIL, undergraduate transfers, admission and grades for guys getting in. Pretty much whatever I look at falls under the umbrella of self-imposed. I don't see many issues that are like totally out of Notre Dame's control and there's like nothing you can do about it. Most of the issues fall under the umbrella of self-imposed roadblocks by us. Now that's good and bad. It's bad because we're holding our own program back on purpose, and that rubs me the wrong way when the success of the football program is the only reason anything else at the school matters. Like, I keep reminding these Notre Dame brainiac nerd types, the only reason any of these degrees mean what they do or anything, elite football success. And you're not allowed to make it to that level and then not give that the care and then just say, thanks for getting us to this elite worldwide status as university. We no longer need you to be elite. That rubs me the wrong way. Now, so that's bad because I think that they have an obligation to prop up Notre Dame football to be competitively and elitely competitive every year, because without it, none of this would matter. Nobody would care about Notre Dame if it wasn't for elite football success. Sorry, your degree wouldn't mean as much. Nope. Elite football is what caused all that. You're not allowed to turn your back on it now and not put it and give it every opportunity to succeed at that level. That is something I feel Notre Dame should be morally obligated to do, since it is the reason everything else with the status of the school developed from that. So that's bad. You know what? It's also good. It's also good because it's the fact that it's internal means we're not beholden to outside forces, and we're just like dependent on the whims of whatever else happens in the country. Some of this is within our control. So I guess maybe there's some hope. Some of these thought processes could change or evolve. Maybe that's hopeful. Maybe it isn't. Look at this. LSU staying classy, stealing from children's hospitals to win natties. Maybe the kid's last wish was a national championship. Yeah, did you guys see that story? An LSU booster just got set. Brandon, good to see you, by the way. LSU booster just got 33 months in federal prison for embezzling $500,000 from a children's hospital and then gave the money to the parents of players trying to get them to go to LSU. That's what they're doing at LSU. You want to know how much winning matters? This guy was stealing money from dying children to pump it in to buy football players. So good luck, BK. Sounds like you're in some good company with some really high-quality boosters with high moral character. Have fun, buddy. Like, those are who that is the type of guy Brian Kelly's hobnobbing with at these golf events and whatever else. What do you call it? I don't even know what it's called, where you boil all the snails and all the weird stuff they eat out of there. Brew boil. I don't know. whenever they're doing their gumbo, is that's what it called? Boiling the gumbo. I don't know how that works, man. I've never had that stuff. I've never eaten that stuff. But it's like that's who Kelly's hobnobbing and trying to get money from and be buddy with these type of people. All right. 33 months, $500,000 from a sick children's hospital to funnel it into football. That is disgusting. And that guy probably will spend eternity in a very warm place. You want to talk about it's unforgivable that Notre Dame lost to Marshall and Stanford? It is also unforgivable to steal $500,000 from sick children so your favorite football team can get better players. Have fun in hell, buddy. I don't know what else to say. Have fun in hell. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. That is a rough one to come back from. All right? So if that's who PK's hanging out with down there, wow. Congratulations, man. You got what you asked for, I guess. Good job. Good job. Oh, look at this. $10 holler from the Ohio podcast. Good guys. Look at this. Thanks for joining us last night, John and D-Rock. It was a fun show. We're looking forward to doing something the week of ND and OSU. Go check out the Ohio podcast. I was a guest last night. We had a good show. Scheduled to go an hour. We went longer than that. It was very, very fun. We had some good discussions. A lot of things we agree on, some things we didn't always agree on. And then we just all unite over our hatred for Michigan football. So we are always able to go back to that to find common ground. And that's never going to change forever. Forever. 618, what's going on today? 818, you're next. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, John?
I'm doing good, man. A happy Monday. Hope your week's off to a good start. What's on your mind, man?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty happy about the, the Tay Johnson commit, man. I'm hoping that, man, this could pull, the big fish over in Chicago to pull him into the Ohio State game and hopefully committing to Notre Dame.
Yep. It would be it would go a long way. It is concerning to me, though, that there isn't more of an out front effort of him to get over to South Bend, given that he only lives a couple hours away. I don't know how to read that. Maybe it's just timing or whatever. But I understand it's been a struggle to get him to come over. And usually that tells you something that isn't that great. Am I overthinking it?
Yeah, I think it's not going to be much to get him over, man. I think right now, man, Miami, they did everything they could, and they still couldn't get him to commit. And, Georgia did everything they could. And, I heard Georgia was the best visit he had. So, hey, man, and he didn't commit to Georgia. Maybe he's going to play this for the long haul, man. Maybe he's giving Notre Dame every chance that they can get to seal the deal.
Yeah, yep. And so that would be, man, I don't know. I think a lot of the fan base, I think, is kind of cooled off on him, figuring like, oh, I don't know, it doesn't feel that great, but nothing's over. Nothing's over. And this is a rare case where Notre Dame actually has the advantage of being closer to home. Like a lot of times we hear about guys that don't want to move from wherever they are and be that far from home, going to Notre Dame and the travel and being away from mom and all that. Like maybe that's one advantage Notre Dame does is that it's closer. But if the guy wants warm weather, then it works against us. So it just depends on where his mind's at,
I don't think he want to go too far from home, man. It's just that, man, look, man, this fan base the Notre Dame fan base is real fickle, man. When it comes down to things like this, if it doesn't go their way right away, then they're against the kid, or they cool off on the kid. I mean, sometimes, man, it shows, man, like the fan base helps everything, man. I stay in Cardinal Town, man. If a free agent signs for less money, it's because of the fans. The fans got to show like, hey, man, you forgetting about us, man. I mean, the coaches and the players can't do it alone. The fan base have to help out as well.
Yep. Nope. You have a good point. And, man, I just keep coming back to this fan base and all the scar tissue we have and all the frustration and all the times we thought we were getting kind of close but never got over the hump. And it's like, what's it going to take for that all to change to where we're the ones entering big games with confidence and not sitting there like, I hope this goes okay, but I'm unsure. Like what do we got to do to get to the point where we're entering games on as the confident?
Let me give the West man. Let me give the fan base a news flash, man. Getting 4 and 5 star players doesn't mean that you're going to win championships, man. If they do not fit what you have going on, then you're back and with this fickle, you know what I'm saying, generation, man, they can be like, man, we love it at Notre Dame this year, and then turn around and they in the transfer portal the next year. So getting 4 or 5 stars that doesn't fit, what do you want? 4 or 5 stars that don't fit, or 3 and 4 stars that do fit? I mean, you don't have to have the best players to win. You just have to win. You got to coach them up and win. And I believe that Freeman is going to coach them up to win, man. We so worried about 4 and 5 stars, man.
Yeah.
Stars mean absolutely nothing. What stars mean is the potential of the kid.
Yeah, and you know what? I think we went through that with some of the Brian Kelly era because he got some guys in there that didn't make it through and they had legal problems and school issues. And like Kelly tried kind of letting it rip for a couple years and getting more guys in. And he learned it was going to burn you. If they're not Notre Dame guys, you can't force that fit. Like, you know what I mean? It's very obvious early on if they're a Notre Dame fit or not. And Kelly got burned by that a couple of those years. But you're right, man. It's got to be the right fit.
I'm gonna tell you what hurt us, John. I hate to keep reiterating on the Keon Keeley situation. The Keon Keeley situation is that he was a Notre Dame guy. The problem is Notre Dame is not putting kids in the first round that's at his position. So that's what hurt Notre Dame with Keeley. Now, when you talking about Bowen and the quarterback, man, yes, NIL had everything to do with it. Everything. You know, more father let it be known that NIL is going to play a part in this recruitment. You see that when it came down to signing with Oregon, he went on ahead and signed with UCLA. And, man, what have UCLA ever won?
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. That's a fair point. It's a fair point. So I don't know, man. Do you think that, let me ask you this. How realistic do you think it is? Yeah, go ahead.
Say it one more time.
I want to ask you, how much of an influence do you think the new AD could have on the way Notre Dame does a lot of this? Not that much?
I think a lot going to change.
Yeah.
I think a lot going to change from what Swarbrick was about. Swarbrick was about tradition. I mean, he was not going to play the NIL game. He wanted to go against NIL. But I do think that, man, the new guys will probably sit down with Freeman and be like, hey, man, we got to come up with a plan to get the guys that are Notre Dame guys.
Yeah.
The guys that deserve to come here, deserve to make the NIL money, that want to be here, not the guys that don't want to be here and just want to pay for play. We will help them guys get to where they need to get to. I felt good at one point about Elijah Rushing, but, man, I never felt that great about Elijah Rushing coming here.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll come here. I think Freeman probably told, I think what Freeman told him and with Freeman spilling the truth to him, I think they kind of pushed him away from Notre Dame.
That's kind of what it seems
like. It might
like.
come back to help Notre Dame.
that kind of seems like the case. But hey, Freeman knows what he's doing. Freeman knows the scoreboard here, and he's got to thread the needle and find the right fits. And it's just kind of hard to do, man. I don't know. And the one thing that helps all of this is go have a really great year. Go have a great year. None of these dumb Stanford Marshall things. Use Hartman as like your buoy and your big main thing. Have a really strong year. Win a couple of your biggest games here. That alone will help this all out. And so, that's something on the field that could help off the field.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't never bring nobody else's show, but I was listening to somebody else's show. They said, well, they like Elijah Rushing, but the situation is that they believe that the kid from Katy that committed to Notre Dame, man, they believe that he could be better than Russian. He could be your Russian, you know. You just need to get, you know what I'm saying, the big fish to come on in, man. You know, you got to get him. I don't care what it takes. You have to get Scott, man. You got to get Scott to come in. You got to get Scott to come in.
Well,
I don't care what it takes, how much it takes, what it takes. You got to get him in, man. That's going to open the doors for more kids to come from Chicago.
Yep. No, hey, man. Listen. It's a rough look to have a guy that close to you in a Chicago Catholic League school, by the way, which is a perfect pipeline fit. And it was a Lou Holtz staple. Lou Holtz used to come to the high school I went to or send a guy, and there would be the defense coordinator sitting there, and my dad would go, "Oh, the Notre Dame guys are here. Wonder who they're scouting out." Like, it is a natural pipeline. And I wish it was more of an automatic thing that those guys still all just were interested in Notre Dame. But everything's changed so much. That's just not how it is. It's not the modern reality.
And that's how it should be. Freeman should be able to walk into Chicago, go into the Catholic League and grab anything he wants. Anything. And hello?
Yeah. Yep, I got you.
Yeah, and the biggest issue with these schools, and I've seen it, you know, being from Texas, watching Texas every year, they cannot get the kids inside of Texas, you know, or A&M can't get the kids inside of Texas. And I was speaking to a friend of mine. I said, "Man, look, dude, Oklahoma was going in there picking anything they wanted.
Yeah,
I think those days are over now that they both are joining the SEC. That opened up the doors for Georgia or Alabama to go in there and grab whatever they want."
Yeah, but that is a
Dame
problem. That's a big problem. Like, if you're in Texas and you can't even pull your own best guys in Texas, that's a problem. Yeah.
Hey, Notre Dame fans, we're complaining about not getting Scott, but you're talking about you got a wide receiver that's from the Austin area that did not go to UT.
Yeah.
You had matter of fact, you got two kids from the Austin area in the 23 class, two wide receivers. Neither one of them go to UT. So we're complaining about Scott. I believe in the end, Scott will sign with Notre Dame.
Man, that'd be nice. That'd be an upset, because I don't think a lot of people are picking that. It'd be an upset.
Man, a lot of the people that's not picking it because they're not looking from the inside. Because you got to think, man, they talking about all this. I think that he will commit to. I think he will commit to Miami during the summer. But when it comes down to the winter, and he takes that unofficial visit to the Ohio State game, I think that's when he'll start thinking like, "Hey, man, Notre Dame is where I really want to be at," because Notre Dame is where he want to be at. And I understand Freeman, man. Freeman's got to back off. The thing is, man, these are high school kids. Back off the situation, because you're not doing the same for other colleges, man, because of the kid from Tennessee, the cornerback, he's able to take an official visit to Notre Dame, being committed to Tennessee. Yeah. But you don't want to take you don't want your commitment, your committed kids to take visits. So why say, "Hey, man, unless you decommit, we can't do the official visit. We can't do the visit." You know, you can't be hypocritical about your kids can't take visits, but other school committed kids can take official visits. You gotta give, and you just gotta show. And man, right now is the time that you need to get Scott, and you need to make Scott a priority, man. You done made all these kids at 3 stars and 4 stars a priority. You got a kid that's in your backyard that you need to make a priority, and that's, man, honestly, God, truth, man. I believe what Scott is looking for, and I don't blame him. He's a kid. He's looking for loyalty from Notre Dame. He's not looking for money. He's looking for loyalty. When you got when you got the defensive coordinator who's never met him, you got a defensive line coach that's going after every small guy to say, hey, if I coach them up right, they'd be first round picks. Maybe we'll get them 5 stars. Them kids don't look at that, man. The kids don't look at 3-4 years down the road.
Yeah.
You know,
now,
you
man,
gotta get it now.
Yeah. Nope. Really good points. Interesting points. In the old Notre Dame.
One more thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say for the 25 class. All these quarterbacks that you looking at and you overlooking that kid from Detroit, you overlooking him. Come on now, Notre Dame. How could you look for a 3.5, 4-star kid from Mississippi and you got a 5-star right in your backyard?
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest issue with Notre Dame, man. You know, I knew that Wingo wasn't going there. I knew that about a year ago when I spoke to his father. He said, "No, that's not the school. We want to be in the better passing attack.
Yeah,
we want to be." But I don't think Wingo is the best receiver in this area. It's McClellan. You know, I keep telling people like, man, McClellan is the one. There's no way once you got on Love, you should have been on McClellan and had McClellan in damn near every weekend.
Man, maybe they need to put you as the recruiting director, man. You got it all figured out. They need to call you up and let you direct all this and figure it out. You got it all figured out.
It's kids that you got to make priority. Wingo is good, but his route running ain't the best. You know, but take McClellan cleared, he can run routes, he's fast, he's everything that you need as a wide receiver at Notre Dame. If you want to compete for national championships, you got to make these kids priority. Alabama, when they own the kid, they make that kid a priority. When Georgia is on the kid, they make the kid a priority.
Yeah.
You can't make these kids a priority. Okay, you going to visit Ohio State this week? Okay, the linebacker from California, you're going to visit. I'm going to check in every 5 minutes on that visit, John.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're on the visit or not. What's going to happen is you're going to have to turn your phone off.
Yep, I like that. Like you, yeah, exactly. Like just making the kid feel that important and that special and everything. And I don't know, man. It's just the Notre Dame recruiting thing is just, it's always been a thing my whole life. And it's just a tough spot to be in. Maybe you have a really good year on the field that will help with all of this. Stick on these guys and let Freeman add his little personal touch.
We can keep saying that winning on the field, but if they ain't making these kids priority and making these kids want it, these kids going to continue to keep walking away. They're going to say, man, Notre Dame is not the place. You know, it's kids in Chicago that saying, man, you know, kids in 25 class saying, we visit Notre Dame, man, but
yeah,
that's not it.
Yeah,
you know, that is not it, man. If they recruiting, they don't want to. They look, and they also looking at the situation with Justin Scott. They're not making Justin Scott a priority. There's no way in the world I would have turned him down and told him not to commit in January.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know what's up with that part. I thought they were saying he was ready to do it and then backed away. I thought he backed away. Why would we tell him to not do it?
He was ready to do it, and the defensive coordinator supposedly told him like, hey, if you want to take them visits, don't commit. Like, dude, let him take his unofficial visits. Don't let him take an official visit. Let him take the unofficial visit.
Right.
And then tell him, hey, man, this weekend, come home so we can show you that this is where you need to be.
Yeah. Yep. No, hey, man, good points you bring up. And all just navigating recruiting for Notre Dame's always been a challenge in the modern age. And it's going to continue to be. We'll see where it goes. Hey, man, thanks for calling on a Monday. I really appreciate you.
All right, man.
Have a good one, man. Give me a call later in the week. Man, he's always full of recruiting thoughts. 818, I got you. Domer Guy 88 here. I don't know if I agree with this. I love you, Domer Guy 88. All these fans bitching about the administration knew about it when becoming a fan. If you didn't like it, you shouldn't have become a ND fan, period. Zero reason to complain in my mind. I think I'm going to have to disagree with you here. I love you and you're here every day, but I disagree with this. First off, there's an assumption here that there was a time where I decided to become a Notre Dame fan. So philosophically, I already disagree because there was not a moment where I decided to become a Notre Dame fan. Like, there was never that moment. I was born and this was it. There was no choice. Like, it drives me nuts when people go, oh, John, if you're not happy enough with the results from Brian Kelly, pick another team. I never picked this team. It's who I am. It's not a choice. Loving Notre Dame is not a buffet where I decided to pick it over something else. So no, there's no choice to love Notre Dame. It's either in you or it isn't. There was never a moment in time where I had all these hats on the table like a recruit. Who am I going to dedicate my life and be miserable for every year from now on? Oh, I'm going to pick this team. So I disagree with this concept that it's a choice. You're born into it. It's in you. It's who you are. And then you got to deal with being miserable all the time. So there is no choice. Okay, I didn't choose to become a Notre Dame fan. It's who I am. It's in me. It chose us. I didn't choose it. So that I disagree with. And the other thing is that administration thing, that has not been a thing forever. Lou Holtz got his guys in there until he didn't. And what happened when he did get his guys in there? Oh, yeah, they won the last championship we've had. Does nobody see a coincidence there on the timing? They let Lou get some guys for a while and they won. And then when they stopped letting him get guys in, they didn't win and then he left. It's a very easy thing for me to see. It didn't always used to be that way. Notre Dame started out as a place to want to give poor Irish Catholic immigrants a chance at a better life in America and educate these poor Irish guys that didn't have nothing. It didn't start out this hoity-toity elite thing. It didn't. But all the fans bitching about the administration knew about it when becoming a fan. False. I didn't know about it. I was born into it. And I didn't know they wanted to hold us back from winning. Right? And if you didn't like it, you shouldn't have become an indie. I disagree with all that. It's not a choice. It's just so, I always react bad when somebody says that to me. If you don't like how things are going, choose another team. Like I chose this one. There's no choice to be made. This is who we are, and we're probably going to be miserable all the time. Like, until something changes on the high end, I don't know, but there is no choice. It's like I always joke and say, there are no bandwagon Notre Dame fans. There are no bandwagon Notre Dame fans. And what I mean by that is, to be a bandwagon fan means you hop on only when it's really elite. Yeah, not in my lifetime, at least since I was 4. There are no bandwagon fans because there's no bandwagon to jump on. We haven't won anything. There's no wagon to jump on. It's impossible to be a bandwagon Notre Dame fan. We got a band, but there ain't no wagon. So, I don't know, man. But the idea that, of when you chose to become a Notre Dame fan, no. Nobody I know that loves Notre Dame this much chose it. Picked it. Oh, I could be a Michigan fan. I could like Purdue. I could like Notre Dame. I could like that. Let me think of what team I want to dictate, let run my whole life's happiness or not, and then pick them. No. Maybe I'm the outlier, but I don't think so. There was never any moment where you made a choice to love Notre Dame. But that doesn't mean that just because you love Notre Dame, you have to agree with everything they do, especially when their own actions hold us back from being competitive. You're defeating your own purpose. and I don't like it. And the idea that it's always been this way at Notre Dame is just not true. It ain't true. And it's just really coincidental timing that when they had that window and they let Lou get guys in, they actually won a championship. And then when they clamped down on Lou because they didn't like what a big figure he was and how popular he was getting and what he was doing, they stop letting him get that. Before you know it, Lou wasn't winning quite as much. Weird how that happens, right? So that's what I think about that. 818, I'm coming to you. Give me 1 minute. Chasp, good to see you. As an Ohio State fan, I'd love to see Notre Dame in the Big Ten. Need more Michiganators. Well, you've come to the right place. You've come to the right place if you want some Michiganators. But I've talked about it a million times. Notre Dame in the Big Ten, man, it would be like almost every game would have some intrigue. I mean, except for Maryland and Rutgers. But whatever. There is like 10 of those teams that I can make compelling arguments of like a very interesting, awesome game. And so it'd be interesting almost every week. And yeah, the more Michiganators there are around, the better. The better it'll be. Mark with glasses, baffled that ND fans can brag about higher standards, the history and prestige, and then turn around and blame the very same uniqueness and use it to make excuses when you can't get a 5-star. I think there's middle ground in this. I think there's middle ground in there to where you could do both. I think you could have high standards for the academics and the behavior and the test scores and everything else. I think you could be proud of that, but they could also be a little more open about some of propping up the football team and putting them in a position to succeed. That's the issue I run into in this discussion is people think if you want Notre Dame to be more open for NIL and maybe a little more laxed on grades or whatever, then it's just pay for play and you're basically Alabama then and Georgia and it doesn't matter if you can read or write. Like, no one's asking for that. No one reasonable. I'm asking for a reasonable leeway there to just do enough to make sure the program's nationally competitive in recruiting and talent acquisition. That's the thing. It's not an extreme where on one end, it's all dorks like me with my body skeleton frame playing for Notre Dame and you have no chance of winning, but they get good grades and they're all lawyers and accountants and engineers at the end of it. And on the other side, you're pulling up a prison bus and unloading a bunch of guys that can't do anything but kill people and I'm putting them on the field. Like, no one's asking for that. There is reasonable middle ground. There are things I think Notre Dame could do be a little more open with that aren't going to tarnish the reputation, denigrate the degree, bring the school a bad name. No one's asking for that. Reasonable middle ground with a lot of things is what I'm asking for. And a lot of times Notre Dame doesn't do those things. That's all. Domer guy, everybody wants to sell their soul to the devil for a natty. That's not what I want to do. I just went over that. Absolutely not. It is not selling your soul to the devil to get in NIL when it's legal. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, you guys. No, it is not selling your soul to the devil to have a great fat NIL deal to offer our best guys. That is not my idea of selling my soul to the devil. Listen, if all it takes to sell your soul to the devil is me wanting to find a way, undergraduate guys that want to get into Notre Dame can find a path to do that, well, then where are my horns? I guess I'm the devil then. Like, just how hoity-toity is Notre Dame that it's selling your soul to the devil to want us to do what's legal and give more good-hearted, willing to work hard athletes a chance to transfer into Notre Dame and get a degree. Neither of those things get anywhere close to what I'd say selling your soul to the devil to get a natty. I do not see it that way at all. Like, NIL is legal. Notre Dame has a huge network of influential people that have a lot of money. It is not selling your soul to the devil to let them get involved. It is legal. I'm not talking pay for play. I'm talking the NIL deals we can offer are fat, worth it, big money, move the needle. That's all legal. That is not selling your soul. Pay for play is different. I am not asking for that, never would. But the NIL deals you do get should be bigger, better, fatter, and more public. Totally legal. Not selling your soul. And I would argue I'm doing the Lord's work by trying to find a way for a guy who starts out as a freshman somewhere else and it isn't working out for whatever reason, to find a way for that guy to be able to transfer into Notre Dame and get the Notre Dame experience and the Notre Dame degree as an undergrad, transferring in as a sophomore or a junior. How is that selling your soul? I think I'm doing the Lord's work by finding a guy that didn't think he'd be in position for a Notre Dame degree and finding him a way to get one. I think that's within the mission statement of Notre Dame, not going against it. I think doing that adds to Notre Dame's Catholic appeal and trying to be for the people, giving more guys like that an opportunity. So sell your soul to the devil is straight up pay for play. And we don't care if you're a murderer, a rapist, and you can't read and write, you can come here. That's selling your soul to the devil for a natty. Letting some guys in that don't have straight A's is not selling your soul for the devil. This is so hoity-toity that it just rubs me the wrong way. Now, let's keep our pride intact and everything ND stands for. ND used to stand for having high standards on and off the field. That's most of Notre Dame's history, though. It wasn't what we've been doing the last 25 years. I have no pride in that. I have no pride that we've won nothing the last 25 years. I'm happy our guys graduate and, they're good guys. But you're missing the on-the-field pride. That's got to be a part of this. It's got to be a part of this. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man. Under the way things are now, Tony Rice would never be at Notre Dame. The last quarterback that won a championship for Notre Dame wouldn't be able to get in right now. Absolutely not. Zorich? Nope. Couldn't get him in. You kidding me? Forget about it. Like, people who think that this has always been this way, you're not accurate. It wasn't. Lou got his guys up to the point they quit letting Lou get his guys. The Ohio podcast. I just don't hear Gerby's name much in OSU recruiting circles. I'd be surprised if he ends up in Columbus. Sharky, I heard Scott's coming to an ND barbecue this summer. Yeah, it's in my backyard. I invited him over. I'm going to give him a recruiting pitch. How'd you know? I'm just messing with you. Will, the uniqueness of Notre Dame is no longer enough to entice big-time recruits, embrace NIL, or get left behind. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Because the things that make Notre Dame unique, yes, they make them unique, but they also make life harder on you as a player. So uniqueness, I love, but what makes Notre Dame unique specifically is that it's harder to get through. You have to work harder. More is expected of you. You have to be a better student, not just athlete. So like a part of Notre Dame's uniqueness is the idea that it's harder to be there as a football player than it is a lot of other places, man. Justin Jenkins, good to see you. Good morning, John the Great. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. $818, what's going on today?
Hey, good. I guess it's still good morning. Good morning, John.
Good morning to you as well, sir. Sorry to make you wait on the phone line there. You've been listening to the discussions. Where do you fall on any of these topics? Or do you have something else in mind on this sunny Monday?
Well, I'm going to talk about a couple things that's been discussed, and I want to discuss the playoff system a little bit with you. But starting out, yeah, man, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. So you mentioned both points that I was going to mention the Domer guy 88, because I'm like, man, you're making it sound like that's really what you're not supposed to do as a fan, is decide you're going to like it too. Isn't that what we all hate? Is like, oh, you're just a gravy train rider that goes with whoever's winning at the time. Like, that's literally the opposite of a good fan. So I'm like, he didn't think that one through. And then on top of it, you said it yourself, man, the administration was different under the Lou Holtz era, which I grew up with. That's what got me into football. I mean, think about a spoiled fan. I had the 88 national title team. Years before that, Jordan enters the league. The Bears, 85 Bears. That was my ascension into sports, man.
Yeah.
It's been all downhill from when Jordan retired, man. It's pretty much been all downhill. So, but no, man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That you don't decide on your fandom. That was just again, he just didn't think that one through.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And I always get caught in this all or nothing, man. Either like choir boys, straight A dorks with my body frame on one side, and then like Jimmy Johnson, Miami teams in the 80s on the other. Like, there is so much wiggle room in the middle where Notre Dame could operate with all of the smart strategic brains they have over there. They could figure out a way to navigate comfortably in the middle, put us in a more competitive position in football without sacrificing the things we valued the most. Like, there are ways to do that better than they're doing it now. I just don't know if they always want to.
Well, and that's just like we talked about in the past, man. I just think that it's a way to kind of thread this needle. I don't even think that it requires a threading of the needle. It just requires an expansion of the open mind. I mean, you talked about these whatever 10 to 12 guys. You said that basically make these decisions are kind of no name. They got money. They got a ton of money, but they're kind of they don't think about things the same way we do. But it's also like, well, they obviously understand value and they understand the value of money. And that just would be odd to me that you would look at that and say, well, how can I, feel good about myself while at the same time helping my program? Well, how about allowing guys in that maybe aren't the absolute top of the line student, but work really hard to still maintain good grades and have amazing character? That's how you do that. That's how the Tony Rices got in. That's how Chris George's got in. I think to some extent Ricky Waters got in that way. I think the only guy of the big, of those star players that would have gotten in, I think, is Rocket. I think he might have still gotten in, but a lot of those guys wouldn't be there, man. We wouldn't have a national title show for it. So to me, it's like, stick with your ideals from a character standpoint and, really good grade standpoint. But if Duke can allow, players in that are one and done and be fine with it, I don't know, man. I think Notre Dame can go a little bit more in that direction.
Yeah. And, the thing that I always come back to is Notre Dame started out with the mission statement of trying to educate these young immigrants that had no money and didn't have a formal good education and prepare them to succeed in America. That used to be their mission. Now we're at the point where it's totally flipped, where it's the other way. And it's just the elite of the elite of the elite only. And it's like, have we totally lost where we came from? Would it really ruin the whole mission to let a couple guys transfer in as sophomores and get into the football program? Would that ruin everything we built? I don't think so. I don't think so.
It doesn't make sense when you think about this, John. Okay, you're saying we're not just going to bring in the top athletes that are just great, being physically great at football, who just don't have the grades to get in. But the other side, you're saying, but we can bring in people that are brainiacs that may not have to work real hard to be brainiacs, but they're just great brainiacs. But we'll bring that in over the guy who's physically talented. That doesn't really make sense. If your mission statement which is what it's been, going back to the beginnings of Our Lady's School and going back to the beginnings of New Brockney and what it was all about, was that we're going to work harder. We're gonna give you everything we got. We're going to be faith based, and we're gonna have a higher calling. But at the same time, that was supposed to be the statement. So that was the mission statement. It wasn't about, we're going to get the smartest guys on earth and turn them into football. That was never. It does. I don't, like you just said, John. I don't understand. This doesn't have to be a needle that needs to be thread. There can be a way to find those things and loosen up a little bit on your stringent. It's maddening to me because, like you said, Marcus Freeman can only recruit as high as that ceiling will allow him to do.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't mean make excuses for him, but we got to be super realistic about that. I don't know, and kind of transitioning now to this. By the way, you're gonna hate when I say this, but I have to correct you on something. It's going to make you only more depressed and more angry. John, it hasn't been 25 years. It's been 35 years. 35 years. That was 1988. Actually 34, because 2023 season isn't upon us yet. So actually 34 college football seasons. So you feel worse about that? Or
man, I'm trying to give some leeway, some credit here, on some of what we've done that's been pretty good, but nowhere close to great.
1998 puts us squarely in the Bob Davie area, so things were bad for about a decade.
All right, now let me ask you this, because I'm getting hit on this in the chat. All right, I'm getting hit on this. Is people are still saying I should not be blaming Brian Kelly for anything that happened last year. And I keep saying I'm not blaming Brian Kelly for the losses last year. But you also have to admit some of his roster construction and depth is a part of the reason Notre Dame had a small margin for error to operate last year. That is not blaming Brian Kelly, to mention a fact that when you change coaches, the new guy inherits the last guy's roster the first year, and we had a lot of depth issues in it and on it. I don't see why that's controversial. That is a fact. None of you are going to tell me, we had a great wide receiver room and quarterbacks ready to play at an elite level last year. None of you are going to tell me that. No, it's not okay to lose to Marshall and Stanford. But you also can't ignore those roster issues that made it more likely that if something went wrong, we'd lose to those teams. I don't think that's that controversial.
The thing about Brian Kelly, man, we all know, the guy's ego became a real point of concern for himself. Because think about this, John. He came in with all this ballyhooed hype on what he did with Caleris and Pike, who probably were just the two that just somehow messed with him and made him look really good when it came to developing quarterbacks. Where he was underrated is Brian Kelly always saw himself as a defensive coach. I think he came up as a defensive coach. That's why I give him all the credit. He literally, player development was definitely the things that he talked about and liked to give himself credit for player development, to his credit, came through on the defensive side of the ball. He made that a priority. And I don't think people saw that coming. We thought it was going to be offense. And I think when things didn't go well at the quarterback position, the first couple of cycles through of, Chris and Tommy Reese, I think the reason he didn't go after the big quarterback was his own ego. He wanted to show that he could develop a quarterback. And he kept pounding against that wall that kept not happening. And ironically, had he just gotten the quarterback right, I think we'd be looking at Brian Kelly's tenure completely different.
Yep,
I think we'd be talking about one of the best Notre Dame coaches of all time, one of the best.
Yep.
Probably would have won a national title. Or he probably wins that Alabama game. I'm just saying, in a different universe where he's got a quarterback. Hey, Clemson did it. Clemson had a very similar roster to Notre Dame. They were in that title game with Alabama. And even if he didn't win it, if we were in that game in 2012 and we were in it till the end, and they make a couple more plays, we'd be feeling a lot differently about the Brian Kelly era.
Yeah.
But because his ego got in the way at the quarterback position, and he felt like he had to prove that he could develop a quarterback, that's what happened. Because from the defensive standpoint, man, he did a great job. Obviously, offensive line too. Obviously, tight end as well.
Yeah.
But the receiver, because they didn't come because the quarterbacks weren't coming. When they did have that in 2015, then he completely hired absolutely the wrong guy ever hired for a position at Notre Dame ever in DBT.
Yeah.
So for the one time he actually got that right. And we had a team that I think was elite. I think that team talent-wise was elite. And we just let it go because of very, very poor coaching. So again, man, you're right about the Brian Kelly thing, man, because where he was lazy was recruiting the quarterback, because he wanted to prove that he could develop a quarterback that was, high 3-star, low 4-star. I seriously think that was the issue.
Yeah, it's just it's just frustrating. And listen, it's frustrating to me where I say one little thing and then the narrative takes it to 100. Like it
Right.
needs to be considered, the issues on that roster going into next year when you're looking at what went right and wrong and why. Mentioning that does not mean that I'm blaming the Marshall and Stanford losses on Brian Kelly when he wasn't even coaching. But it is a factor. You can debate how much, what percentage of a factor. But people acting like when Freeman got here, it's a whole new roster. That's not true. Brian Kelly was well aware of the holes coming up last year, and he wanted to get in front of it and get out of Dodge before he had to confront some of his own issues there.
He did the same thing that Pete Carroll did at USC. When he saw the sanctions coming down the pike, he was out of college football. That was it. And Kelly, when he saw the problems at Notre Dame coming, he was out to the swamp, man. He was Bayou Brian.
But man, it's just it's frustrating to me. But I can't even say that without people saying, oh my gosh, John, you're taking all responsibility off Marcus and you're just blaming Kelly because you don't like the guy and you love Freeman. No.
John, it's one year we've had Marcus Freeman. You were not kind to the entire coaching staff after Marshall and Stanford. I mean, I remember those shows. I remember the fans. But you know what? I got to give the guy credit. After that, and it took 2 of those, unfortunately. After that, he started getting it right. And the one time where it didn't was USC.
Now, you want to know what?
We were competitive.
You want to know what, though? Now that we're another year removed from that, now that I know I can't say, oh, we don't have a quarterback, because of what, I can't use that. Like, I've been saying this. Every day you get further away from the Kelly era into the Freeman era, more pressure comes down on Marcus Freeman. There's more of his DNA, his decision-making, his coaches, his recruiting, his development, his vision, all of it. And that is fair. But I think having this quarterback changes a lot. This year, you got to make some hay this year. You got a guy that can make all the throws. He's developed. He's experienced. This is a different measuring stick than last year. I am not judging Freeman this year the way I did last year. The circumstances have changed. There's more pressure on Marcus. I agree with the people that said, if you lose a couple of those dumb Marshall Stanford games this year, it's going to be a really big deal. Absolutely. There's way more pressure on Freeman this year. For a year 2, man, it's tough to find a guy with more pressure on him year 2 than Marcus Freeman. I expect more. I love him. I expect more. You can't have any of those dumb losses. I expect more, and I'll yell at him if he doesn't get it done.
Yeah, John, I keep trying to get my expectations in the right place, with this whole thing. I really do think, unfortunately, I really feel like another dumb loss is coming down the pike. What I don't think is coming is 2 of them. I think there's going to be one stupid one that we're going to hate. That's going to remind us of last year, but I don't think there'll be 2. And I think there'll be another big win. I think there'll be 2 big wins. So that to me is improvement, and assuming everything else is the same. That's why I think 10-2 this year. I'm looking at 10-2. 9-3 would be the bottom, and that's it's not the only way 9-3 is acceptable for me is if it's major injury, obviously aside.
Yeah.
Is if we're losing that game close, we're competitive. I mean, those Marshall and Stanford game were no shows. I mean, we didn't show up.
Yep.
Now,
wait. Let me ask this because I take crap for this. I take crap for this. We lost the Marshall game, in which we lost our starting quarterback before halftime of that game, and then we lost the Stanford game without our starting quarterback again out for the year. What I want to ask you is, how fair is that to bring up? It's the most important position on the field, and we had a major health issue there for both of them. How fair is that to mention, or are you of the mindset of, I don't care. It's Marshall and Stanford. I don't care, John, if you're the quarterback, you need to find a way to overcome it and win. Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, that's okay. So the score of the game was maybe affected by the fact the quarterback wasn't there, but that team wasn't ready to play.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just that simple.
Yep. I think that's a very fair team. I think that's a very fair opinion, the way you stated it. I do.
Yeah, the only thing that was affected in my eyes is, maybe they barely win the game if Buckner's in the game. Maybe he has a better second half against Marshall.
Yeah.
Maybe that happens. I don't know. But and then you remember the estimate fumble. I mean, the guy. I love the effort, but you can't fumble a ball when you're about to score a touchdown. Yeah. You're ahead of. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, that's not being mentally there, man. And I'm telling you. Think about this too, John. Some of these games where I'm sure it's not preparation during the week or else, well, I guess could be, but my guess is the preparation's there. It's when that kickoff happens, man, or maybe it's even 2 hours before the game. Something changes, and that's what they got to try and hit at that. I think it's a game day thing. I don't think it's a preparation thing.
Yeah.
I think that those games where they didn't come to play, something was different about the 2 hours or so leading up to the game, because we saw it in the Clemson one. There's no question that you can't expect. Again, we know that you can't manufacture that kind of emotion, but you certainly can't drop to the level that they did in Stanford. And
now, is some of that all right? We were 17.5-point favorites. Is some of that the old Notre Dame concept of you're going to get everybody's best shot? It's everybody's Super Bowl, like they're on TV. Like, is it one of those where those guys, it's the biggest game of the year and it's circled and they're going to give you everything they have 100%, and the Notre Dame guys just overlook it and aren't emotionally ready to go out there and be in the right mind frame, or what?
I mean, yeah, I think it's absolutely that. I think it's at the, when I've seen that in the past, well, this year, there's just a flatness, and the crowd will get into the game when the players start playing well. So people saying, "Oh, the crowd wasn't in today." Well, it's a lot better than having crowds, like drunken crowds, away from you at an away game, shouting that's a little more nerve-wracking. I can understand that a little bit more. But just because your crowd's flat, that doesn't give you the excuse to play bad football, because you're doing that in scrimmage.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. The crowd wouldn't be flat if you were beating the shit out of these bad teams.
Right.
The crowd, it isn't my responsibility. It's you have to do something to get the crowd going. Think about it. Like, if you're all sitting there in the sun and you're playing like ass, of course the crowd isn't going to be into it because you haven't earned it. Now, at least with Clemson, listen. At least with Clemson,
even though it was waking. It happened the second half of the Navy game too, man, where they just went completely flat. They couldn't do anything. Reminded me of the Oklahoma State game, and the whole second half was just a no-show. So Freeman's had that issue, man. He's got to figure that one out. He's got to figure out what buttons he's got to press.
I want to be very, very clear. I want to be very, very clear. I do not like the vibe here of some of the chatters that think I'm totally in the bag for Freeman. I have no standards for him. No, anything's acceptable. And I'll just take whatever because I like the guy's personality. I want to be very clear. the standards and the framework with which I talked about Freeman entering his first year are going to be very, very different than how I look at it this next season. It does matter to me that it was year one and a roster in flux and learning how to do it all. Oh, the standards of how I judge them are going to be a lot tougher this year. And I think that's fair. But let's get into that before you just say, John, you'll accept 6-6 because you like his personality. Not true.
And some of these new coaching hires, obviously that's what remains to be seen. I think here's what's fair, John. You're giving Freeman all the credit when it comes to behind the scenes, recruiting, all those things. And I think that's fair. I think that he deserves all that credit. And the things that aren't happening do seem to not be his fault. They seem to be, I'm talking at the very high end of things.
Yeah.
When it comes to recruiting, those don't seem to be his fault. On the field, a different story. I like what I saw of him after Stanford. I really did. And even the USC game, it was still competitive. Brian Kelly loses that game by 3 touchdowns plus. We both know that. That's how that game goes, right? It's a downpour. I appreciated that they found a way to make that game competitive when it was looking like there was we were going to get run off the field. He improved after Stanford, and I think it's going to continue to go in that direction. But that still remains to be seen. And I think this new coaching staff, especially the offensive side of the ball, in a lot of ways, put there, they're a little more experienced, a little bit more of the understanding of you would hope and think, of a college football player's mind, and a little bit more developmental oriented. That where Reese was more, younger coach. We'll see. By the way, this is an issue at Alabama. Is there going to be games where the offense just doesn't show up?
Yeah,
I'm going to keep my eye on that.
Yeah. There's a lot to watch there, man. It's going to be really, really interesting. So, dude, but I just want people to know, there is a higher standard coming for me this year under Freeman. I did give him a little leeway on year one and understanding of some of ththose roster issues and him learning on the fly. That is over. You are right. You cannot lose those silly games early in the year. And it just ruins everything. Every game's way too valuable. He has got, I agree with you. He's got to find a way to hit those right buttons at the right time.
And he knows that. And that's why, in a way, the things that happened last year, I'm glad they happened last year, because if it was going to be bad, if it was going to be that way, I'd rather it be in his first year. Doesn't mean they're fixed now, but I'm glad that he saw the worst of it then, and that we weren't given fool's gold like with Willingham, where things just really went our way, ball bounced in our favor, the whole year until we got to the end of the year, and then stuck with them for a couple more years.
All right, let me read you this. Let me read you this chat. See if you agree or not. Adam Dowling donated $5, and he said, "Chill out, people. Freeman is fixing a flawed roster while in the middle of the toughest schedule we've seen in about 20 years plus." What do you think of that?
I think that's a fair assessment of what's going on right now. He's trying to fix, and the roster. I think it's fair to say too, the roster wasn't broken. Okay, it had a couple very leaky areas that he has addressed. And again, from what I see of and yes, toughest, no question, man. It's certainly at the top of the schedule. There's no question of that. Clemson, Ohio State, and USC, where they stand right now in college football, man. This is fun. This should be fun for us as fans, man. This should be fun. I want to play good teams. I don't want to play 6 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. But man, listen, dude, I really do feel some general angst and anxiety, both in terms of what's going to happen on the field and with recruiting. I feel like right now we're kind of in the middle on a lot of things. Like, you're not like totally down. This year's going to be bad, but people are kind of just, there's this anxiety. We're just kind of like, we want it to go good, but we got to see it to believe it. Like, this has been an anxious off season to me, is what it feels like.
Well, and again, though, I think there were some unrealistic expectations I think we put on. I didn't think 10-2 was going to happen, and I just didn't. I just thought, I didn't have to think 8-4 either, but at the same time, the way the 8-4 worked out was a lot better than I would have saw or thought if I just saw 8-4 in front of me. Okay, we lose our starting quarterback. Oh,
Right.
after Stanford, we're really good.
Yeah.
So this year, I think what it is we have a much, there's the anxiety there. That's always going to be the case with Notre Dame fan. When has it not been that way?
Yeah.
But there's more realistic expectations, and I think there's more fair expectations. Because we know now what we're dealing with from a recruiting standpoint. It seems like Notre Dame's moving in the right direction with that, with the NIL stuff. We'll see how that goes. It seems that the coaching staff is moving in the right direction with the hires and the way they're approaching things philosophically. But again, we'll see where that goes. I kind of like where we're at right now because, of course, you want something. You don't want, sometimes it's not any fun to feel like, I don't know how it would feel to be an Alabama fan right now. It's great looking in the rearview mirror and seeing all these championships.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, is it as much fun then, when you're winning? I like the fact that we're down enough right now, or we're the number 3 team in the of the big 3 in the Midwest. That bothers me. So we have something to prove.
You know what? That's a really good point. That's actually a very interesting point to look at it that way. If you look at the 3 big northern kind of football schools, where do we fall right now in that ranking? You bring up a good point. It makes me sick to my stomach. I might barf.
But we got the chance to prove it, man. We got the chance against Ohio State to prove that. We got the quarterback. I think that can get us there. I still think we have the defensive staff and position groups to get us where we need to be. But we need to see major improvement in that. But I like the fact that it's like there's enough success that's happened to give us confidence, but enough obstacles that we haven't overcome yet to give us that, hopefully, chip on the shoulder that Notre Dame needs. And that, to me, is always when Notre Dame's at their best, man. It's when they have something they have to prove. 1993 is a great example. That was a tweener year where they gave a lot of players went to the NFL in 1992. A lot of Jerome Bettis and Rick Myers. And, we came back with a team that was well built and had a good foundation for a run at the national title, but didn't have a lot of that star power from the year before. This year, I like the fact, I like where we're at. I like where we're at in terms of what we're about to face through 12 games, both as a fan and what we could accomplish, what it looks like then for next year. Anyway.
It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. And there's a lot of opportunity here. And having that quarterback piece is a big one. And but I am gauging this year very differently than I did last year in terms of how harsh I'm going to grade Freeman on things. There needs to be a big improvement in a lot of areas this year. It is not a thing where, because I like his personality, he could do whatever and I'm fine with it. Like, give me a little more credit than that from my history of doing this show and the standards I have. And so he's under a bigger microscope this year. Hey, thanks for calling, man. Good catching up with you. I hope you have a good rest of your Monday.
John, I'm going to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Then I'll go. What do you think, real quick, next year, 12-team playoff? Where would you like? That's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, don't you think it's in the best interest now of college football to scale that regular season back a game or two? And I'll let you go. I'll get off the phone and hear what you have to say.
Gotcha.
Have a great day, John.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. You could argue for health of the players, scaling back the regular season makes sense because it's less toll on their bodies since you maybe are going to have an extra 4 games, added onto the back end. But the reality is nobody's giving up that TV revenue. Like, it doesn't matter if you want to bring up, more injury and what about this? Nobody's going to care. They'll say they care, but it comes down to money. We're never going back to less games when more games is more TV revenue. And again, it's kind of sad that the first thing isn't like keeping the players healthy and not running their bodies into the ground. No. It's all about that money, and we're never going backwards on that. So even if you could give me reasons that makes sense for the money, it'll never happen. So don't even think about it because it's all about the Benjamins, baby. What do we got here? Yeah, Luke's cousin Freddie says Navy scored 35 unanswered points. Here's the deal. Oh, I didn't want to bring this up, but I'm going to have to. I mean, the show's passed over, but now I got to bring this up. That Navy situation. if that game would have went on a few more minutes, I think Notre Dame loses to Navy last year. Like, I felt like we got saved by the clock literally running out, but we were playing like anus. All right. And here's the issue with that is you play Navy week 1, and that just can't happen. That can't happen. It's easy to block it out like we won and keep it moving, but that was very, very bad and unacceptable. And I need Al Golden to figure all that out. Like, if that game goes even a few more minutes, we're going to lose the Navy, and I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to sink my own ship if that happens. So, bad plan, bad execution, like every single basic tenet of how to properly defend Navy, we did not do. Big chunk plays, guys not in their right area, like not staying home, like not just everything we did was the opposite of how you beat Navy. It's just rough. It's just rough. It's just rough. What was this? I saw something I was going to click on. Where is that comment? Let's see. Domer Guy 88. You choose to continue to be an ND fan, John. I get what you're saying, but agree to disagree. I don't know how you define that. Like, I choose to continue to be a Notre Dame fan. Like, even if I didn't watch the games for 1 year, like I was so mad at Notre Dame, I'm the hell with it. I'm not watching this year. I would still be a Notre Dame fan. I'd just be one who couldn't watch the games without being miserable. I don't know. This is quite the disease we all have. You know, it really is quite the disease. Oh, man, we're all in it together. We're all in it together. This is the problem with John. Stop blaming BK for losing to Marshall and Stanford when you have enough talent to beat them. Absolutely. Both can be true at the same time. Both can be true. Like, it's not that hard of a concept. Yes, we had enough talent to beat them. But what is the talent? Was it an established quarterback that we knew could make all the throws that Brian Kelly developed and then left for us? Nope. Wasn't that at all. Was it a wide receiver room full of young, exciting talent and older, reliable guys to throw to? Nope. Didn't have that either. Like, yes, there was more than enough talent to beat Marshall and Stanford. But my argument is it should have been more than that even if Brian Kelly was recruiting and developing right and required it of his staff. It is not Brian Kelly's fault we lost to Stanford and Marshall. I do not appreciate the roster he left us, though. Both can be true at the same time. Kevin Early. John, stop crapping on BK. He did revive the program after Weiss. Yes, he did. And he deserves credit for that. Yeah, I will always say that. Yeah, he did inherit a really bad situation and did a good job of rebuilding it when we were in a bad spot. However, that does not mean he's free of criticism. The guy refused to get on the private jet and recruit, and I will never forgive that. That's unacceptable. If losing to Marshall and Stanford's unforgivable, so is being Notre Dame's head coach and being a lazy recruiter. And he was. That's also unforgivable. So, yes, he revived the program after Weiss. That doesn't mean that you can't ever question him or ask for a little more. Is that the only bar, that you had to be better than Weiss? Is that it? I thought we were all about high standards here. And now, as long as you're better than Weiss, I guess I can't say nothing. Oh, man. Brian Kelly's roster has nothing to do with losing to Marshall, except for the part where it does. Because it had his roster left us with no wide receivers to throw to and no quarterback you could trust. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. His roster has nothing to do with losing to Marshall. I don't understand that. Those were the players that weren't good enough. I hate this discussion. I just hate this discussion. There's no way anybody, if you don't want to take what I'm saying in good faith, you're always going to be able to push back on me and say that it's me crying and blaming Brian Kelly. Like, if you're not willing to engage at that level and admit the way Brian Kelly recruited and developed the roster was not good enough, I'm not going to be able to change your mind. But in no way, shape, or form is it okay to lose to Marshall and Stanford. And that is on Marcus. And I don't appreciate the roster we inherited either. It had a bunch of flaws. All right, folks, that's going to be it. Little bit of energy on a Monday here. Little disagreements, a little mixing it up. I love it. I love it. Now let's get a few more weeks going here and get into August. I'm ready to get into this. I'm all this summer stuff. We're just all in our own minds here. I want to get to more reality here so we could talk about next year. All right, folks. That's going to be it. I will have a short episode dropping tonight, one of my shorts. And then tomorrow I'll have another video out. I'm going to write a couple articles. Make sure you hang out at the Irish Wire and figure that out. Check it out. I really appreciate all you being here. Listen, we're in the dog days of summer. There ain't much going on. And we've been getting well over 100 on these live streams. And I love that. So we got some momentum here. And then when the season gets going and we get into camp, we're going to I want to ramp those numbers up, find new people to call to get in the mix. It's going to be great. But thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll talk to you soon.